即係運作。
The audio system is once again operative. I'd like to remind officials and members we are now scrutinizing the English version of the regulation, but I hope that the interpreters and the audio staff will be aware of this. Now we are coming into the United Sanctions Democratic Republic of the Congo Regulation 2016 LN 157/2016. Who will take us through? Ms. Sham, thank you. I suggest that we follow the same procedure. I give a general background, and then Ms. Law will go over the provisions. Now, the UN Sanctions Democratic Republic of the Congo Regulation 2016, the country is in Central Africa. It was originally under Belgium. And since 1966, there has been civil war and armed conflict. In 2013, there was ceasefire, yet the parties concerned were still in conflict. So the UNSC in 2003 passed the first regulation, followed by others. Now, since the Congo situation continues to be a threat, so on the 23rd of March 2016, the resolution number was passed, and in 2016, in August, the CE received instruction from MFA that we should implement Resolution 2293, and the resolution was as gazetted, and it became effective on the date of Gazetto. On trade, in 2015, the Congo Democratic Republic, it was numbered 115 among our trading partners, about $300 million in volume, in electrical appliances, audio equipment, and machinery mainly. Now, since the main categories of traded goods have nothing to do with the sanctions, the mutual trade is not affected. I will now ask Ms. Law to explain the details of the regulation. Now, members, you can turn to the document CITB CR 75/53/4. That is a marked up copy of CITB CR 75/53/4. Now let's look at Annex E. Now the first change is the name. It's changed from 2015 to 16. It's on page 1. And then under section 1, that is on our page 2, there's a punctuation change on the pilot, and then page 3. Now the number of the resolution is changed from 2198 to 2293. How about resolutions 1533 and 1807? Are they still there? Those continue to be effective. Now, is it that the individual regulations cover different sanctions? Now, for the past few years, there have been different resolutions concerning Congo. Some sanctions increased the number of resolutions, Some extend the expiring sanction for a period. So it depends on the content of the resolution. If the entire resolution has expired, then we need to delete it.
Please continue, Ms. Law. Part 2. Section 2, nothing. Section 3. There are some punctuation changes on page 6 and page 7. Sections 4, 5, no change. Okay. Section 6, page 11. Resolution 2198 has been changed to 2293, the latest one. Okay. Section 7. Some textual change. I'd like to ask a question. This so-called textual change, why do you cross out through the Hong Kong SAR in B, C, and D? Why? Who will take the question? Ms. Chan from the DOJ? The meaning has not changed at all. If you look at 7A, the English, it already says relevant entry into or transit through the Hong Kong SAR. In B, relevant entry or transit would suffice because the meaning has not changed. Relevant entry into or transit mean the same thing as in A. We believe we can delete these few words for the sake of simplicity, and the meaning remains unchanged. The same goes for C and D. Mr. Holden Chow, I totally understand what you are saying, and I do agree that this makes things simpler. But allow me to say that perhaps you should have an overarching title under 7 before you do this for A, B, C, and D. Maybe you should have a leading statement or something, because if you only state that in A, people might misunderstand B, C, and D. Yeah, I understand what Mr. Ho is saying. If you look at 7A, B, C, D, these are subclauses. They are rather independent. If you cross out those words in B, C, and D, these subparagraphs might not be very clear in meaning. Please think about it. It is not that we are picky, but users want the law to be certain. Chairman, if you look at E originally doesn't have the words through the Hong Kong SAR. I may not be right, but let's discuss it. I understand you want drafting to be made simple, but clarity is also important. I'd like to ask another question. 7A, the first line. The committee has determined that the relevant entry. What does the word relevant mean? Why do you say relevant in the first line of 7A? What does it point to? You can answer both my and Mr. Ho's question together. That is the style of drafting for Section 7. Yes, Ms. Chan. Chairman, relevant entry refers to Section 6. Just now, members asked whether there will be confusion caused by the crossing out of those words. We thank members for your opinion. We will go back and take another look. And we'll see whether there will still be clarity if we want to do this again. I'd like to say why we propose to do that. It is because A to E are very close together. They are not separated by anything. That is why we think in Section 7, relevant entry should be quite clear. But thank you for drawing our attention to this. We will rethink this when we come to a similar situation in the future. Okay, Ms. Law, please continue. Section 7. There is a change on page 14. We add F. The supply or sale of the prohibited goods is approved in advance by the committee, which says there could be approval given. This is in accordance with the latest resolution 2293. By the same token, Section 9. Requirements for issuing the license, we have added in the same thing that is in accordance with the latest resolution. Okay, please continue. From sections 10 to 29, there is no change. Okay, please continue. Section 30. We changed the resolution number from 2198 to 2293. Okay. No change in section 32. The commencement date has been changed to 2017 instead of 2016. That's all, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Law. Any questions, members? Legal advisor? Sorry. We will let Mr. Holden Chow speak first. Maybe it's my foolishness. About Section 7, I would still like to ask why under E, originally, there is no transit through Hong Kong SAR. That is the case for B, C, and D. In the original version, we have through the SAR, Hong Kong SAR in A, B, C, and D, but not in E. Well, yes, I can refer to Section 6, and I know the relevant entry or transit would be through Hong Kong SAR. But why in the original 7E, we just don't have those words? Is it that you are talking about some special circumstances? Why is E different? Who can take the question? Ms. Chen? 7E is not like the others. In the 2015 resolution, E already exists, and I don't have information at hand as to why E is drafted that way. But to go back to our original point, even if the words through the Hong Kong SAR are not there, and if you look at Section 7 as a whole, it's still quite clear. When we prepared the amendment this time, we felt that the words through the Hong Kong SAR would not be needed for B, C, and D because they are already in A. We think they needed not be repeated. So we have taken the opportunity to delete those words from B, C, or D. I don't know whether I can answer Mr. Ho's question. Let me organize my question again. Would 7E be a recent addition? That is why you have included the enhanced version. So is 7E the latest edition last year or the year before last? Please dig up the history for Section 7 and let us know after the meeting. You can write a short letter so Mr. Chow will know why E is different. Legal advisor. On Section 7, if I may refer to the Chinese version, the administration has not crossed out the relevant words. Section 7 in the Chinese version still mentions relevant entry into or transit through the Hong Kong SAR. That is the case for all the subsections in Section 7. So the two texts are not consistent. Ms. Chan. Thank you, legal advisor, for her observation. When we drafted the law, very often there may be changes to the English version, but not the same changes to the Chinese and vice versa. In English, we note a repetition. That is why we want to cross out those words. But in Chinese, we believe Section 7 as it is already simple and neat enough. That is why we did not make the same changes. You have considered the Chinese version and also the English version in detail. Is that right? Yes. Yes. Of course, the major premise is to have the Chinese tally with the English. But very often, the changes may not be necessary for both versions. Legal advisor. Ms. Law, can you continue with your introduction? In fact, I have completed my introduction. Okay, Mr. Holden Chow, any more questions? No. Good. Our progress is very satisfactory. We should now study the next paper, the United Nations Sanctions South Sudan Regulation 2016. We will be scrutinizing the paper CITB CR 75/53/5/1, Annex E. But before we do so, again, we'll ask Ms. Sum to introduce the South Sudan regulation. Thank you, Chairman. South Sudan is in the middle part in Africa. It became independent in 2011, and in 2013 there was the eruption of political rivalry between the president and vice president and other people in government, and then it escalated into a full-scale conflict. The United Nations Security Council passed a resolution in 2013 to impose sanctions on South Sudan with regard to travel. And since South Sudan continued to constitute a threat to international peace and security, so UN passed in 2015 UNSCR 2290 in order to extend the sanctions to the 31st of May 2017. And in June, the CE received instructions from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to extend the sanctions to Hong Kong, and this was gazetted on the 14th of October this year in order to implement the resolution. And the regulation has become effective on the day of gazetto. In terms of trade, amongst our trade partners, South Sudan ranked 160th. And the trade volume is $72 million. Mostly it is telecommunications, replay of audio recordings, etc. Since the sanctions do not have to do with the ban on trade in any goods, the sanctions are not going to affect our trade with South Sudan. Now I can hand over to Ms. Law to explain to you the regulation in detail. Please refer to Annex E, members. Yes, we are already there. Please continue. Page 1. We added the year 2016 to the title of the regulation. Page 2. Relevant entity, relevant persons. We have made some textual change, at the same as those made to the Libya resolution. Page 3, the same change.
Section 2.
And then page 4, section 2, in section 2, bracket 2, now license, several words were deleted. Now it's because in section 1, under interpretation, it's already said that the license was granted under section 5.1. And then pages 5 to 6, no change. Section 5 on page 8, no change. Page 9 then. Now, we added the word entity after a person. Now, looking at the UN resolution, we believe that the reference was not just to a person, but also to an entity, so we added that. So you added entity. Now, is it consistent with other regulations? Yes, it would be after we added the word entity. Then section 6, no change. Through section 16, no change. And section 17 on duration, now the latest duration will be 31st of May 2017. Now on duration, now previously it was to 2nd of March 2016 and that's expired, and there seems to be a gap between. That is quite significant. Why is there the discrepancy? Now the regulation was gazetted in middle of October and became effective there, then. Now from the latest UN resolution until the commencement date of our regulation, there was a 2 to 3 month gap. Now the UN passed the latest resolution in May only. It wasn't passed before March. It was passed in May 2016. Legal advisor, any other point? Other members? No question? Now I think apart from these 3 regulations, are there other points, matters to be discussed? No? Now I recall that there is some information that has to be supplied in regard to Section 7. If there's nothing else, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
唔該晒。